All right, guys, today is Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. Today marks day 19, I got it right this time, on the 30-day thrash of the 55 four-door. So today, more firewall work. So I'm late getting out here. It kind of rained last night a little bit off and on, and this morning was pretty cloudy, and then now the sun's out. It is a lot cooler, but we got a lot of wind, so definitely fall is coming. I'm not a big winter person. I would rather have warm weather all the time, but whatever. But anyway, so today I'm going to try to finish up some more stuff. That muscle in my back is still bothering me a little bit. It's not as bad as it was yesterday when it happened. So anyway, I'm just going to go until, you know, it starts hurting pretty bad, and then I'll quit for the day. But I'm going to at least try to get something done today. Anyway, I'll turn you around and show you what I'm working on now. So if you've been following along, I welded up the hole right here, put in a piece of sheet metal, and plugged this. The only thing I want going in this hole now is just the cable that goes to operate the wiper motor here. So I've basically mocked up the wiper transmission and the wiper motor to kind of see about where the cable would go. I thought about drilling it a little bit further in here. You can see my blue mark right here, my Sharpie mark right here. I kind of thought about bringing it in here a little bit further because it'd be a little bit easier for the cable to go in there. But without having the brake pedal assembly and all that stuff and the defrost duct and all that stuff under the dash, that could pose a problem where this is going through. So I ended up marking it on the edge of where the original hole was. So I know it should be in that general area to begin with. So I'm just going to play it safe and do that instead of, you know, going in and getting the defrost duct out of the shed and screwing it up there and the, you know, brake pedal assembly, which I really don't think that's going to matter. But, you know, anything can happen when if you know, mock something up without everything being there, you might run into trouble, because I have before. But anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and drill it there. Now, the grommet that I am using is this one right here. It's a Hillman. I got it actually at Tractor Supply, but they have this same stuff at Lowe's. This is a rubber grommet. It has an 1/8 inch hole in the middle, which was actually the smallest one I could find at Tractor Supply. But anyway, I've got the drill bit that's the correct size for the grommet to go into, which I'll have to look because I read this a few minutes ago and now I've already forgot. It's a 7/32 drill bit is what I'm using. So basically what I do is I take the rubber grommet, I'll show you right here. I'll take the rubber grommet. This is just my kind of my redneck way of doing it. But anyway, I'll use these calipers and I'll basically fit them until they get right up there where it needs to be. And then at that point, I just go down through there finding the drill bit. For me, it's easier than trying to read all these little numbers and try to figure it out exactly. So that's what I'm going with. So I'm gonna get started. All right, so I drilled the hole in and I stuck the grommet in there. I needed to get back on the backside and smooth that up a little bit, but with a file or something, because it's got, you know, when I drilled through, it's got that flash that kind of kicked in there. It made it a little tough to get the grommet in, but anyway, that's something I can do once I get inside. But that is the grommet there, instead of having that big giant thing that goes in there from the factory. Wow, I can't even hardly get that out now. I guess it's going to be good and sealed, huh? Anyway, so I can go ahead and put the wiper motor and the wiper transmission in the box, and with the appropriate hardware. So I've located my hardware for this, that, you know, I dug stuff out and got stuff gathered up that I'm going to need when I go to put it all back together for good. And I put it in one of these little Ziplocs here and label it with a Sharpie. I gotta say, you know, if you're gonna take a car apart, you really need to invest in a lot of those little craft bags like that. Like Walmart, you know, you go to the craft department and they have all kinds of different sizes of those craft bags, and they're not expensive. So, you know, you would not believe the amount of cars I have seen people just get a big plastic tote, take the car apart and throw all the bolts, screws, nuts, and all the parts in there with it. So when you go to put the car back together, you don't know what went where. You don't know what screws go to what. And, you know, on these cars, they do have some oddball, unique hardware. So, you know, don't just throw your stuff in a tote. Label it all. Get you some, you know, Ziploc bags from the dollar store or something. But I like the craft bags because you can get all kinds of different sizes of them. I can show you right here. And anytime, like in the kitchen in the house, if it's, you know, I put something in a Ziploc and it's not something that, you know, leaves a nasty bacteria mess, I will stick it out here for car parts and screws and bolts and stuff like that. So anyway, I have, you know, a lot of that size there, but there's a whole bunch of them you can get. And then I've got these little bitty dudes too right here. These are handy when there's only like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you know, little screws. They're really, really handy for that. They're excellent for drug dealers too, in case you needed to know. But anyway, I keep the gallon and the quarts in the house in the cabinet for the kitchen. But anyway, so that's now done. I do need to finish up. I did go get some more bolts to finish my studs inside to hang the firewall pad on and stuff. So now I'm kind of needing to get that all finished up, and then that part will be done. So I ended up modifying the dash for the ignition switch, which it looks really terrible, but it's actually a pretty thick washer on the back side, and I've got some pieces of thick, just cut out some little rectangle squares basically. The ignition switch that I am using is not the factory style. I use an ignition switch. It is a CS7 from O'Reilly's. It comes with keys. It's more or less something you would see on street rods a lot. It has its goods and it has its bads, but I'll show you right here. This is a BWD CS7. I want to say this thing's like 12 bucks or 15 bucks or something. It's not very expensive. It's as far from stock as you can get. If you've ever priced a new ignition switch for a 55, 6, or 7 in the catalogs, it is expensive. It is super expensive. So this is pretty much what it looks like. It has an aluminum, you know, knurled nut there to put it on and off. But what I like about it is it has nuts on the back side of it, and you can actually put your ring terminals on there and bolt your wires down instead of the original, which takes spades. So, you know, you've got 1 or 2 spots for a spade and you might have to put an extra wire on there. It makes it kind of tough. So you can put a ring terminal on any wire and stack them up on there. So that's why I like these so much. I've never had an issue with one of these. They're just a great ignition switch in my opinion. It comes with 2 keys. And this piece here, it kind of comes as just a dull aluminum. I just run it on the buffing wheel, polish it a little bit. But the problem with them is they're a smaller diameter than the original hole in the dash. So when you do get it in there and try to tighten it up and everything, when you go to turn it and stuff, the whole thing likes to turn. So for me, it was a little bit tough to figure out. I have made stuff in the past to try to save the dash, but this one I just didn't care, because if this thing ends up going bad, I'll get another one identical and put right in there. So, you know, I'm going to hand wire the whole car anyway, so everything will be matched for this ignition switch. But it basically has flat sides on it right here. There's a flat side there and a flat side on the other side, so that's why I cut the rectangle squares and put in there. And I've got it to where it's really tight. You go to stick it in there and it's pretty tight getting it in there, but when it goes on, it's just fine. And then I've got the original, you know, it's for a Bel Air, but anyway, so I'll have the indicator on here. So I'm not going to worry about body working this and smoothing it, making it look like it's all molded in and perfect, because, you know, that bezel or whatever you want to call it is going to go on there and it's going to cover the whole thing. So I just don't care. But anyway, that is permanently pretty much altered. If you wanted to change that back to original, it would take a lot of work, but I know I'm never going to do it. It's all about saving money for me. You know, when you price a reproduction ignition switch versus that one, you know, I'm going to go with that one every time. But I really like the nuts on the back of it instead of having spades. To me, that's just the best. But anyway, I think I'll get the studs welded on and I got a list made. I'm gonna have to look at my list. There's other stuff I'm forgetting. I know there is, but anyway, I've got a lot to do. I just got to get it done. I actually ought to blast that dang dash today. I want to lay some plastic in here, and then I'm going to put chemical stripper all on the bottom of the dash right here, and chemical strip this to bare metal. But this up here where somebody sanded it to bare metal and left it, it's rusted pretty bad, so I'm going to have to blast this. The problem is that blaster is going to put that stuff everywhere. Like, that stuff is going to go in every orifice of this car. And you know, driving down the road with the windows down, I'm sure it's going to circulate and probably blow a lot of that crap everywhere. So it doesn't matter how well you vacuum it out or blow it out with a blower, you're still going to get some flying out of it. But the only thing I can think of is get in here and maybe just try to put some, definitely want to cover up the cowl vent area right here, but the other part I worry about is up here, so I may try to mask that off somehow. But I kind of thought about hanging plastic in lengthways right here on this side of the B pillar, just straight across, and then, you know, tape it up to it or something there. But that way, if it blasts, it'll all wind up in the floor right here, and then I can sweep it back out and put it back into the blaster keg. So I think that's what I'll do. All right, so here's the CS7 ignition switch in the car. I used a Bel Air bezel here, which I'm going to use Bel Air indicator bezels on all the stuff on the dash, because this is a 210. It's supposed to be just clear, but I like the chrome bezel and the black inserts, and I had a set here, so I'm going to use them. But you know, I don't have the clear stuff for the 210. But anyway, that is it with the factory bezel on there. And the thing that I didn't like about it is I don't really much care for the knurling around the aluminum nut that holds the ignition switch to the dash. So I actually used an O-ring and just slid it over it, and it takes up the slack, and to me, you can't really tell there's an O-ring there, so it just kind of blends in with the black. So I'm good with that. This is an old O-ring, and then I've got a brand new one here that I think is the same size. I don't know, but if not, I'll just clean that one up and reuse it. But that is the CS7 ignition switch in the dash, so works for me. All right, guys, got all the metal work finished today on the Firewall. It is done, ground. Other than, you know, now all that's left is like getting all the rust off of it and the old paint, and I've still got seam sealer to get off up in this area. And you know, other than the cleanup side of the metal, I got the metalwork side of it done. So lots of holes got filled, and the bolts that I put in on the back side of the Firewall to hang stuff on with washers and acorn nuts, I even went in on the inside of the car and I put one tack weld on each side of the bolts, and then that way, you know, in case it ever tries to break loose or cracks out here, it's got the extra support in there for just 2 more welds on each side of the head of the bolts. So I'm happy. I mean, that's a little bit of progress. I'm surprised it's not more rusty than it is, because it rained last night. So I've got my usual spots here from my hands where I push the car back a little bit. One hand will go here, and then my right hand will go here. So you kind of see that, but I mean, it's got surface rust, a little light, but I figured it would be pretty rough today, but it is not, so I'll take it. Anyway, that's pretty good progress right there. I gotta say, I wasn't originally planning on, you know, doing any work to the Firewall. I was just going to clean it up, re-seam seal it, and paint it. But if you watch the other videos of how all this was caved in all the way across here and here, and then you can see these wrinkled up deals right here. I don't know what's up with that, but I mean, this is really wavy over here. So I mean, it just needs to be done. It just needs to be smoothed out. So that's why I stated in the video, it's probably at least a week or week and a half of work to do a Firewall to get it to look pretty decent. I'm gonna have to use my sandblaster to get all these forward body mount areas done, because a lot of this I won't be able to get to with a sander. So I'm gonna blast a lot of that. I still got a degrease into there where the access panel is for the old Power Glide or 3-speed. So anyway, I'm happy. I got that done at least. Well, my back is giving me a little bit of trouble on that muscle I pulled yesterday, but I got almost a full day in, so I'll take it, you know what I mean? But that is going to do it for, and I already forgot again, is this 18 or 19 days into this thing? I got to get a calendar and get it on the wall so I can X off the days, because that's what I was doing to the hardtop there for a while and I could keep up with it. Now, when I forget, I have to go in there to the computer and pull up my channel on YouTube and look at what last video was posted. So I don't know if it's 19 maybe. I don't know. You guys know what it is. I'll have it figured out by the time I go in there and post it. Anyway, thanks for watching.